Welcome to this session on CSS media queries, and let us get started with iDigitalpreneur. Now, what do we mean by media queries? Media queries are essentially ways with which you can write custom CSS for different screen devices that your website or your web page can be accessed on. So, for example, if someone is opening up your web page on a mobile, you want to apply a different style, or if your web page is being opened up on a laptop, you want to apply a different set of CSS styles from the conventional CSS styles, you wrap those CSS styles up inside a pair of media queries. And media queries are the primary way of writing responsive web designs so that your website is easily accessible and easily usable across different devices of varying screen sizes. So what do I mean by this? So right here, I have two cards inside of a section, and I have placed some headings, some paragraphs, and some buttons here. Now these cards, I have put in a display of flex inside of this section with a gap of 2 rem. Now gap, if you don't know what gap does, gap basically gives spaces between the flex child element. And I've given a gap of 2 rem so that there is some space between the flex child elements. Now what I want is the moment I access this particular web page on a screen device that has a width of less than 600 pixels, I want this card to, like these two cards, to not come right next to each other, but right on top of each other. So I can write that CSS inside a pair of media query, and this is what the media query looks like. If you type in @media, so VS Studio Code automatically auto completes this. You select the media screen one and type in and then inside a pair of brackets you specify the dimension or the width of the screen for which you want to apply that particular CSS. So here in my case, I want that the CSS should be applied the moment the screen size reaches 650 pixels. So I will say a max width, and I will give it a value of 650 pixels. And now anything that I write inside of the pair of curly braces, any CSS that I write, that CSS will be applied for screen sizes less than equal to 650 pixels. So just so you know, let's try to apply some common styles, and I will say card. For dot card, I want the background color to be black and a color to be white. Now I will go back and I will open up my dev tools so that I can visually go through the different screen sizes. Now the moment I reach 650, take a look at the value here. The moment it reaches 650, that CSS which I applied inside of the media query, that will get applied. So I will keep on decreasing it. And the moment it reaches 650 pixels, the card now has a background color of black with a text color of white. And this will be applicable for all of the other dimensions under 650 pixels. So apart from max width, we also have the concept of min width. So in case you want to apply a min width property, so you can do min width. And now any dimension starting from 650 pixels all the way to any other value greater than 650 pixels, for all of those screen sizes, this particular CSS for my dot card will get applied. So now I will go beyond, well beyond 650 pixels, and now you can see for any value greater than equal to 650 pixels, the CSS for my dot card is getting applied. Now you can also club together the max width and the min width, and to do that you simply type in and then inside a pair of brackets you can say min width, and you can give it a min width. So let's say I give a min width of 400 pixels. Now this essentially means that anytime there is a screen size between 400 to 650 pixels, I want this particular CSS style to be applied. So now I will go back to my page and I will go to any value between 650 to 400. And now you can see that the moment it is a minimum of 400 pixels, mind you, this needs to be max width. And now anytime it starts off from 400 pixels, all the way to 650 pixels. Thus, CSS style is getting applied, and you can keep on adding more CSS here. You can say that I want the h3, which is inside of my dot card. I want my h3 to have a different font size, and I will say I want my font size to be 3 rem with a color of, let's say, brown. And now you can see that I can keep on applying multiple CSS to multiple HTML elements inside of the media queries. And whenever this particular breakpoint is reached, all of the CSS applied inside of the media query will get applied. Now, for our demonstration purpose, because we're trying to create a fluid responsive design, I will remove all of this. I don't require it. And inside of my media query, I will say that anytime a screen size of 650 pixels or less is achieved, I want to give the section a flex direction of column. This way, it will move the main axis of my flex from the horizontal to the vertical one, essentially making the cards come right on top of each other. So now if I do this, and now you can see that the moment I reach 650 pixels, this card is now coming on top of each other, and it is now looking much more better on smaller screen devices. There is no limitation to the number of media queries you can add in your CSS files. You can have multiple different media queries for multiple different dimensions of the screen. And media queries are not just constrained to screen devices, it's also helped in, for example, if your device is in horizontal mode or portrait mode or landscape mode, it can also detect whether the user has applied a light theme or a dark theme, and based on that, if you want to change some element CSS styles, you can do that using media queries. Now, the reason why we're using screen here, because we assume that our website will be shown on different screen devices. That means in tablets, laptops, phones, etc. If, let's say, you want to print out your uh, website, you can use print, and this will essentially make sure that the media query is only applied whenever you're trying to print out your website on a page. But usually 99% of the times you will be using the screen media type, and the screen is essentially nothing but the different screen devices that we see. So media queries are a great way, and by clubbing together the conventional CSS with media query CSS, you can achieve a responsive fluid design across different screen devices. Now, there is one last thing which I would like to mention, is something called a mobile first design, or MFD. So MFD suggests that your conventional CSS should always be written for mobile devices, and your media queries should be written for larger screen sizes. Right now, our CSS is the direct opposite of MFD. That is, my conventional CSS works for large screen sizes, and my media queries are for my smaller screen devices. But if you really want to achieve a responsive fluid design, you should do the opposite of this. That essentially means that my section should have a flex direction of column, and inside of my media screen, I will give it a min width of 650 pixels, and I will say this to be row. This way, you are creating your website for mobile first, because as we know that most of the internet users today, they use their mobile phones to access the resources which they want. So ideally, it makes sense that your conventional CSS always targets the mobile first design. And now, because this is the conventional CSS, and the moment it reaches 650 pixels, all of the media queries are being applied for larger screen sizes. So this is a practice which one should follow. It's not a mandate that every time you must do a MFD approach whenever you are writing CSS, but this helps you achieve a very responsive and fluid design easily. So that kind of brings us to the end of the discussion of CSS media queries. You will be clubbing this together with the project in hand, and you will be writing media queries to kind of make the web page more mobile friendly, so that whenever I open my web page up in any of the smaller screen devices, my elements are well structured. So we'll continue with more discussion on CSS. Till then, I will see you all in the next video.